to talk about meditation because I think meditation is a really great tool, but it's also something that a lot of people struggle with. So, in this video, I want to share with you tips to help you learn to meditate. Now, I have done a video about this ages ago, but I felt like it was time for an update, mostly because of how many people have become interested in the topic in the last couple of years, which is probably because of all of the turmoil that we have all experienced as of late. Having said that, meditation is especially useful in these times so we can reap all of its benefits. And it has a lot of them. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll put a bunch of them somewhere here on the screen so you guys can see them. But I do want to get straight into the video and talk about the tips. So let's get into it. So, tip number one is to find what works for you. There are many different types of meditation out there, and it is important that you realize that meditation is not just about like sitting with your legs crossed, reciting a mantra, right? And that daily activities can actually become meditative as well. So be open to finding what feels like a fit for you. So, for example, some people find it a lot easier to meditate while moving, especially if they are hyperactive. And in those cases, they like qigong or dancing may be best for them, right? Some others may find it easier to sit, close their eyes, and listen to a recording of someone's voice. If one type of meditation doesn't work for you, try another until you find what works best for you. And also stay open to the possibility that even what did not work for you at the beginning, right, may work for you in the future. So, meditation tip number 2 is to release judgment. And to me, this is the most important part of meditation. The biggest roadblock I personally encounter when learning to meditate, and the comment that I hear most from others, is the feeling that they're doing it wrong, or that they cannot do it, or that it doesn't work for them. If you're judging yourself through the process, your overactive inner critic will be getting in the way. And this actually ties into tip number 1 because I spend so much time trying to do it right that I honestly psych myself out of it out of sheer frustration. I don't know if any of you experienced that, but if you have, please let me know in the comments. And also, it's important for me to point out that for my self-critical audience, right, for the love of all that is holy, right, do not judge yourself for judging yourself, okay? Remember, there is no right or wrong way to meditate. There is only what works for you. Now, when I started, I found there to be way too many rules, like how to sit, when to do it, for how long. And I really tried, but found that most of what was recommended really didn't work for me at all. So I think, for example, you're supposed to meditate in a sitting position, right? That's what everybody says. And there's good reason why that is suggested. But that was super uncomfortable for me. And I ended up spending all of my time focusing on how uncomfortable I was in my body and thinking about how much longer did I have and all of that stuff, right? So it was completely counterproductive for me. So instead, I took the guidance as a point of reference and went and figured it out on my own, right? Figured out what worked for me. And by the way, what worked for me is laying down. Okay, so, and by the way, it is also what I would want you to do with this video, right? Tip number 3, stop trying to clear your mind, okay? Listen, maybe a Buddhist monk has this down, but The belief that there should be no thoughts is unrealistic, at least in my humble or not so humble opinion, right? And again, it brings judgment that if there are thoughts, we are doing it wrong, right? So to me, meditation is not necessarily about clearing the mind, it is more about observing the mind and doing so without judgment or without attachment to the thoughts. Now, if the thoughts come, just notice them, recognize that they are there, and bring your focus back to your meditation, be it your breathing, the voice you're listening to, whatever the case may be, okay? The thoughts will move up their own accord. Fighting them or trying to block them or push them aside shifts your focus to them, okay? And just know that the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Now, tip number 4 is to start easy. If you tried and have struggled doing meditation, maybe try doing a 5 to 10 minute guided meditation. They're a little bit easier because you're listening to someone giving you direction, right? So there's a lot less pressure to perform, if you will. So you can just relax and follow. Okay. Now, I actually do have guided meditation on my playlist on my channel, so you can get there by the link in the description box. Now, tip number 5 is, in case you're having a hard time observing your thoughts and separating from them, you can use a trick where you say, I am thinking about blank, and then you refocus. Blank being obviously whatever it is that you're thinking about, right? If you're thinking about dinner, you could say, I am thinking about having pizza for dinner tonight, right? And you can say it out loud or you can say it in your mind. But the idea is that doing that separates you from your thoughts and sends the message that you are not your thoughts, because you are not. Now, tip number 6 is to set up your environment so that it is conducive to meditation. You can use ASMR, low lighting, make sure that the place is quiet, use incense, anything that can help you set the mood. I mean, technically you could do that for a lot of different practices, but I digress. Tip number 7. Try meditating shortly after you wake up. And for some people, this can be really helpful because the worries of the day haven't really infiltrated your thoughts yet. So it's actually a lot easier to focus on your meditation because there's not a lot of clutter in there just yet. Now, tip number 8 is something that again also goes against the standard rules, which is to try and meditate for 5 or 10 minutes every few days, right? Yes, 20 minutes every day is the recommended, but it is not something that works for everybody. So it brings you back to the first tip, right? Which is do what works for you. And at the beginning, right, for me, longer periods of time made me get distracted a lot more easily and feel bad about not doing it right. So what we want here is to get started and build momentum. So figure out a length and frequency that works for you, knowing that you can build onto that in the future if you choose to or if you want to, okay? So in summary, just play with it. Try a couple things, see what works for you, okay? This does not have to be a chore. Just do remember to have some patience and compassion for yourself because you are trying to do better and to help yourself. So focus on celebrating the small victories, okay? And for those of you who want to get started right now, you can follow along with some of my guided meditations on this channel. The link to the playlist will be in the description box. I think I may have said that at the beginning, but I don't recall, so I'm saying it again now. And I would love to hear how any of these tips work for you. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, namaste.